तिम्रान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश नम ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Welcome to the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami, which is the Abhidheya Tattva, chapter 22 of Chaitanya Charitamrita, which we have entitled as the heart of Sanatana Shiksha. So yesterday in our discussion, if you remember, we were discussing how after Shraddha is the adhikar for taking up to bhakti, Tama Bhakti, and Shraddhanusari there is Kanishta Madhyama Uttama. Who are these sadhus? What are the Vaishnava qualities? Was discussed by Mahaprabhu. And then what is the qualification for taking up to Ananya Bhakti? That is complete surrender, exclusive surrender to Lord Krishna. Yesterday, this was the theme what we were discussing. That from this point onwards, Sarva Dharman Parityajya, from there onwards, Ananya Bhakti begins. So that's why first, Mahaprabhu discusses about this. Firstly, Krishna's qualities inspire surrender, and there are devotees who are qualified. They are the Akinchana, or there are the Atma Samarpans, who are qualified to take up now to Ananya Bhakti. And this Sharanagati has lakshans, the 6 lakshans. Yesterday we saw that Ankulyasya Sankalpa, Pratikulyasya Varjanam, Rakshishe iti Vishwaso, Goptrutve Varnam Tata, Atmanikshepa Karpanyam, Shadvidi Sharanagati. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as I was mentioning, devotees should study Sharanagati. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote 4 songbooks. And anyone knows the 4 songbooks written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Raise your hand. Which are the 4 song books which Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote? Sarthi Prabhuji, yes.
Geetavali?
Yeah, then next.
No, I don't know other.
Geetavali, Geetamala, Sharanagati, and another one. I'm also not able to recollect. Geetavali, Geetamala, Sharanagati. The 4th one is based on Stotaratna, the verses of Stotaratna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur composed one song book, entire song book on that. I'm not able to recollect. Sorry. let me see if I later on recollect. Geetavali, Geetamala, Sharanagati. No, I'm not able to get it. If somebody recollects, please let me know. So devotees should study, especially among the 4 books, Sharanagati. And there are bhajans for each of these limbs. Anukulasya Sankalpa, Pratikulasya Varjanam, Rakshisha iti Vishwaso, Goptrutram Varnantata. So I'm just going to now just read out the Sharanagati Mangalacharan invocation song. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Daya Kari Swaparshada Swiyadama Saha Avatari. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, out of boundless compassion on the Jivas, along with his eternal associates, Parshad, and he himself, along with the Dham, that is Navdeep Dham, he manifested Avatari. Atyanta Durlabha Prema Kari Bare Dan Shikhaye Sharanagati Bhakatera Pran. Atyanta Durlabha, very, very rare, what he has never given before. Prema Kari Bare Dan, he is distributing it. And how to get it? Shikhaye Sharanagati, through the process of surrender, Sharanagati. Bhakatera Pran, the surrender is Bhakatera Pran. Dainya Atma Nivedan, Goptrotre Varnan, Avashya Rakshibe Krishna, Vishwasa Palan. So here you can see the Sharanagati limbs. First, Bhaktivinoda Thakur points out Dainya. I don't know why he does it, but some of Bhaktivinoda Thakur first Dainya Bhav, he first goes in this order. Then Atmanived, then Goptrute Varnan, Avashya Rakshibe Krishna, Vishwaspalan. And then Bhakti Anukula Matra, Karya Rasvikar, Bhakti Pratikula Bhav, Varjanangikar. So this is Anukulasya Sankalpa and Pratikulasya Varjanam. Shadanga Sharanagati, Hoy Be Ahar, Tahar Pratana Shune, Shri Nanda Kumar. So, whose prayers does Krishna hear? Whose prayers does Krishna hear? Who would like to answer? Whose prayers does Krishna hear? Anyone? Virendra Yadav Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandapram. So the one who is completely surrendered.
Yeah, Shadanga Sharanagati Obeyahar. One who has the 6 symptoms of Sharanagati, Tahar Pratna Shuni. That's why whenever we want to pray for ourselves, we should not go and pray for ourselves. We should tell a pure devotee to pray on my behalf. Because his prayers Krishna will hear, not our prayers directly. Rupa Sanatana Pade Dante Trina Kari Bhakati Vinoda Pade Duha Pada Dhari. So Dante Trinagari, holding a straw of grass in my teeth. That's a sign of humility. Rupa Sanatan Pade. I fall at the feet of the lotus feet of Rupa Sanatan. Bhakti Vinoda Pade Duha Pada Hari. And I'll hold on to their feet. Kandiya Kandiya Bole Amita Dham Shikhaye Sharanagati Karahe Rutam. I'm Adam, but I cry out, Kandiya Kandiya Bole. I'm fallen. Please teach me Sharanagati and make me Uttam. So this is a very beautiful song. So this is the Sharanagati song. Yesterday, I thought I should discuss this, but somehow it skipped while discussing the 6 limbs. So one who has this surrender, Sharanagati, he is having this, 6 symptoms. And as I was mentioning yesterday, Shraddha is synonymous to surrender. And Shraddha is not an anga of bhakti. Shraddha is the eligibility to take up to devotion. It is the entry door to bhakti. It is the entry door to bhakti. And it is not an angatvam. Shraddha is not an anga of bhakti. So this point also devotee should very, very clearly understand. So yesterday we discussed all these points. Fully surrendered came up many times in the discussion. And then after that he goes, after discussing that exclusive surrender, then Mahaprabhu start discussing the devotional service in practice. Yesterday we saw the definition of sadhana bhakti. And with hearing and chanting, it begins. Yesterday we saw that. So today we will start with the next theme, that this sadhana bhakti has 2 parts. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, Raganuga sadhana bhakti. So part A, from verses 109 to 148, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is discussed. And 149 to 169, Raganuga sadhana is discussed. And that will end, in one sense, Sanatana Shiksha, chapter 22. So he goes on to define Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Ragahina jane bhaje shastrera agyaya Vaidhi bhakti boli tare sarva shastra gaya. Those who have not attained the platform of spontaneous attachment in devotional service, Ragahina jana, render devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master according to the regulative principles mentioned in the revealed scriptures. See Prabhupada's translation of Bhaje Shastra Ragyaya. Even if you are doing bhajan according to Shastra, but the Shastra is given by Guru. So you have to follow the instructions of the bona fide Guru, who also gives the regulative principles. So that's how Prabhupada gives the explanation in the translation. According to revealed scriptures, Sarva Shastra Gaya, this kind of devotional service is called Vaidhi Bhakti. Raga Hina Jana Bhaje Shastre Ragyaya Vaidhi Bhakti Boli Tara Sarva Shastra Gaya. So this is the definition of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Prabhupada's translation. In the beginning, one has to hear from the bona fide spiritual master. This is favorable for advancement in devotional service. According to this process, one hears, chants, remembers, and engages in deity worship, acting under the directions of the spiritual master. These are the essential primary activities of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam. Devotional service must not be executed for some material purpose. See, Prabhupada, while giving the definition of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti itself, is mentioning that if you are doing any devotional service with any material purpose, then you don't fit in the category of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. One should not even have a desire to merge into the absolute truth. So, Bhukti Kami and what? Mukti Kami. You have to be free from that. That means Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. One has to render such service out of love only. So this is the standard for even to practice Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. I hope it is clear. Haituki apratiyata, devotional service must be without ulterior motives. That is bhakti kami and mukti kami. Then material conditions cannot check. Apratiyata, then it will be apratiyata. That means unbreakable. Gradually, Prabhupada is saying, after you practice like this Vaidhi, gradually one will rise to the platform of spontaneous loving service. Now Prabhupada gives the example. A child is sent to the school by force to receive an education. But when he gets a little taste of education at an advanced age, he automatically participates and becomes a learned scholar. So you have to see the phase of a child going to school and getting little taste, and at an advanced stage, Prabhupada is saying, he participates and becomes a learned scholar. So from a child to a learned scholar, how much time it takes? How many years it takes? What is your estimation? Who would like to answer? From a child to a learned scholar. Just a rough estimate. How much do you feel? Anyone would like to try? Okay, 2 hands. Radha Bhavini Mataji, yes.
About 30 to 40 years.
Yes, 30 to 40 years. Okay, Partha, what is your estimate?
Prabhuji, it depends on the it depends on the subject.
Yes, but still, general sense. In a general sense, how much time it should take?
25 years.
25 years. Okay. Virendra Yadav Prabhuji, what is your estimate?
It depends on individual's capacity to take.
Yes.
In general,
On an average, regular, somebody wants to become a scholar in some subject, PhD in some subject. How much time it will take?
I think it may take 20 plus years to.
20 plus. So 25 to 30 years is a good estimate, I feel. One cannot force a person to become a scholar, but sometimes force is used in the beginning. A child is forced to go to school and read and write according to the instructions of his teacher. Such is the difference between Vaidhi Bhakti and spontaneous Bhakti. Dormant love for Krishna exists in everyone's heart. It simply has to be awakened by the regulative principle of principles of devotional service. So there is now, the senses have natural rag towards sense objects. There is spontaneous attraction towards sense objects. So there is spontaneous sense gratification. The senses naturally go towards the sense objects. So from spontaneous sense gratification, you have to go through the regulative devotional service, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And when the senses get purified fully, then when the chit is purified, then the soul has spontaneous attraction towards Krishna. The senses naturally flow towards everything related to Krishna only and never towards Maya. So then from Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, you go to Raganuga, spontaneous devotion. So there are 3 phases: spontaneous sense gratification, to regulative principles of devotional service, to spontaneous devotion service. So like that, we have to see it. One has to learn to use a typewriter by following the regulative principles of a typing book. One has to place his fingers on the keys in such a way and practice. But when one becomes adept, he can type swiftly and correctly without even looking at the keys. Similarly, one has to follow the rules and regulations of devotional service as they are set down by the spiritual master. Then one can come to the point of spontaneous loving service. This love is already there in the heart of everyone. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem. Spontaneous service is not artificial. It is natural. Naturally, the heart flows towards the Lord. One simply has to come to that platform by rendering devotional service according to the regulative principles. Thus, one has to practice hearing and chanting and follow the other regulative principles by washing the temple, cleansing oneself, rising early in the morning, attending Mangalarti, and so on. If one does not come to the platform of spontaneous service in the beginning, we must adopt regulative service according to the instructions of the scripture. So sometimes somebody in the beginning also might have that spontaneous attraction towards Krishna, and spontaneously he takes up to devotional service. So what does that mean then? Anyone? Parsarthi Prabhuji, I'll take your question just after this discussion. If somebody, when he takes up to Krishna consciousness, he has spontaneous attraction to hearing Bhagavatam, chanting, and naturally to perform devotional activities the moment he joins. So what does that mean? Anyone? Yes, Archana Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandavat Pranam. It is his or her Purva Sukruti.
Yes, he has already practiced in his previous life. His heart has got purified. So in this life, he has taken from wherever he has left in the previous life, he has taken from now, and very quickly he will go to the higher platforms. Yes, that is the answer. This regulative service is called Vaidhi Bhakti. This is Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay, Parsarthi had a question. Since I was discussing the purport, I thought I'll finish and then take up the question. Yes, Prabhu.
Then pranams, Prabhuji. Here my question is, isn't Ruchi the eligibility to get devotional service, not Shraddha?
No, Ruchi means, see, there are two types of Ruchi. One Ruchi is that you have some taste for now. At the beginning stages also, you have some kind of attraction to the Lord, some kind of attraction to the deities, some kind of attraction to having Krishna Prasad. So that taste is there, and that taste impels you, pushes you to take up to spiritual. There is an attraction. So there is Ruchi. And that is because Shraddha is there. But Ruchi as a stage is quite different. There are two different things you have to understand. Ruchi as a stage, after Nishta which comes, that is different. But Ruchi is there in the beginning to some of the limbs of devotion. You might have taste for chanting the holy names in the beginning. You might have taste for going to the dham or taking Krishna Prasadam. So usually devotees come to the moment because of the prasadam, the Krishna's mercy in the form of prasadam. That attracts us. So like that, there is a difference between Ruchi as a taste for impetus to take up to spiritual life and Ruchi as a stage. That is quite different. They're two different things. Okay, is it clear?
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Any other questions anyone has? Okay, Ranganath Charan Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji Dandavat. I
Yes.
always have this question
Mhm.
in my mind, that whatever devotional practice that we do, whether it is pure devotional service,
Mhm.
because so long as it is anabhilashita shunyam
Mhm.
and jnana karma anavritam,
Mhm.
one considers it to be pure. So the chanting is synonymous with bhakti.
The chanting,
So synonymous with bhakti, isn't it?
the chanting itself is bhakti.
Is bhakti. Okay. So if you are able to do the chanting properly
Mhm.
without any abhilashas or without any anything to do with jnana or karma, it is called pure bhakti, isn't it?
So we have to understand one thing. Ananya Bhakti definition is Anya Abhilashita Shunyam Jnana karmadyanavritam anukulena Krishnanushīlam. Anukulena anu is there, anushilanam. Or you take from the Bhagavatam, Save pumsam paro dharmo yatho bhaktir adokshaje ahetuki apratihata. So the bhakti should not break. Like I do chanting for say 4 hours in a day. And then I go for my job. So when I go for my job, I am doing karma there. There is karma avaran happening. So the apratihata is broken there. So when the apratihata is broken, then it is a combination of mixed devotion, gauna bhakti, and mukhya bhakti done. In some time of the day, we are doing the angas of devotion, like in a day, okay, let's take an example. In a day, 4 hours I chant, 2 hours I read, and 1 hour I do deity worship, 7 hours. Now, what about the remaining hours? In the remaining hours also, if I am doing Ananya Bhakti, then there should not be any covering, avaran happening. But if I am doing some karma, then it is a combination of conditional activities and constitutional activities. Only when you come to the point where you do both conditional and constitutional activities and you overcome your conditioning and only start performing constitutional activities, then from Mishra Bhakti, you take up to Shuddha Bhakti. Is this point clear, Prabhuji?
No, I still have a doubt. You see, at the time when you are doing the chanting or bhakti, you have a pure state of mind. You only think of Krishna. And see, during the day, that way, none of us can be pure devotees because sometime or the other, we have to do some material activities. It's not that if you do material activities, it's not pure bhakti at all. That means rich people can never be pure bhaktas. Even if I have to go for a yatra, I have to collect money. For that, I have to do work. I have to do some karma. So going for a yatra is a spiritual activity. For that, I have to do something to earn that money. So that becomes a karma. That means I can never be a pure bhakta.
No. See, Prabhuji, we have to understand the definition. And we will have to go by the definition of what our acharyas have given. I'm not
coming to that.
Yes. Become pure devotees. But if you go by the definition, yes, we are doing karma also and we are doing bhakti simultaneously. But at a certain point, we have to understand at a certain point in our life, when we finish all our obligations with our conditional activities and we have got enough purified and we are on the transcendental platform, at that point, Ananya Bhakti begins. It's very clear from the Shastras. It's very clear. Till then, the Bhakti is Mishra. It's not still Shuddha. We have to be, very clear about it. If you see the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu definition, see the Bhagavatam definition, or you see now, right now what we are discussing in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada is very clear. If you see just few purports back, if we go, we saw Prabhupada is very clear in the Kanishta stage, the Bhakti is Mishra. He says, very clearly he says. Madhyamadikari has firm conviction, but he cannot support his conviction by Sastri. Therefore, does not have firm faith. And then he says, when he is free and transcendental to mixed devotional activity, he becomes Madhyama. So mixed devotional activities. So till your devotion is mixed, you are in the Kanishta stage. And only when you come to the Madhyama stage, that is Sthita Pragya stage, then there is no karma avaran happening. And even though you are doing karma, that karma you are doing because you are in transcendental consciousness, it's directly devotional service. But now because the Swabhav is there, the Swabhav covers, it eclipses. And that's why there is karma avaran happening. So when the karma avaran happens, then the Gauna Lakshan criteria is not fulfilled. We have to study the definition of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu's Uttama Bhakti definition quite exhaustively. Then things become clear. the Gaun Lakshan make the bhakti pure. If the Gaun Lakshan criteria is not fulfilled, then the bhakti is not pure. That is the criteria given by Rupa Goswami. Is it clear, Prabhuji? Is it clear, Rangnath Prabhuji?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Bhakti Tattva Vivek is another work of Rupa Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written 4 essays just explaining this definition of Anya Vilashata Shunyam. What is pure devotion? 1 chapter he gives. What is mixed devotion? 1 chapter. And what are the characteristics of pure devotion? And what is the qualification to take up pure devotion? 4 chapters. So just on this one verse, Anya Vilashata Shunyam, he has given. So we discussed quite in detail this, and then we get a clear understanding. And Prabhupada's purpose also supporting the same thing. All the acharyas are saying the same thing. We can see that. Yeah. Any other questions up till now?
Thank you.
Anyone else has any questions? Okay. So where were you? We discussed the definition of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Yes. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives a proof, scriptural proof for Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Haririshvara Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyascha Chitabayam. O descendant of Bharata, here it refers to Parikshit. O Maharaj Parikshit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. Sarvatma, who is the Supreme Controller and who always removes the miseries of the living entities, must always be heard, Shrotavya, about from reliable sources. He must be glorified, Kirtitavyasya, and remembered, Smartavyasya, by one who wishes to become fearless. Ichithamayam. Rupa Goswami also in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu quotes the same verse as the reference for Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. This quotation is from Bhagavatam 2.1.5. It is one's duty to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the hearing process. This is called Shrotavya. If one has heard properly about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his duty is to glorify the Lord and preach his glories. This is called Kirtitavya. When one hears about the Lord and glorifies him, it is naturally to think of him. This is called Smartavya. So Prabhupada is giving the whole process. Shravan, you hear and understand it, then you do Kirtan, and then like that doing Kirtan, then you come to the stage of Smaran. All this must be carried out if one actually wants to be immune from fear. Now the second reference for Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti definition, scriptural quotation, Mahaprabhu is going, Mukha Bauru Padebhya Purushasya Shrame Saha Chatvaro Jajjigre Varna Guner Vipradaya Pratak. From the mouth of Brahma, Mukha, the Brahminical order has come into existence. Similarly, from his arms, Bahu, the Kshatriyas have come. Purushasya Ashramasara. From his waist, the Vaishyas, Puru, have come, and from his legs, the Shudras have come. These 4 orders and their spiritual counterparts, Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas, combine to make the human society complete. This verse and the next are quotations from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5, 2 and 3. So these are 2 again quotations given for support of scriptural proof for Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Yah esham purusham sakshat atma prabhavam ishwaram na bhajat avajananti snanat bhashtat brashtata patantya adhar. If one simply maintains an official position in the 4 varnas and ashramas but does not worship the Supreme Lord Vishnu, he falls down from his puffed up position into a hellish condition. So This is the criteria. If you don't do bhajan, then you'll fall down. So because of this injunction, I practice my bhajan. This is vidhi. Shastra agya hai, practicing, not out of love. This is the third quotation, and this quotation is also given in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, vismartavyo na jatu chit, sarve vidhi nishedya su, etayor eva kinkara. Lord Krishna is the origin of Lord Vishnu. He should always be remembered and never forgotten at any time. Smartavya satatam Vishnu. Vismartavya na jatuchit. All the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastra should be servants of these two principles. Smartavya satatam Vishnu. This means you should do this. Vismartavya no jatuchit. And you should not do this so that you will forget Krishna. This is the Vidhi and Nishedh. So Prabhupada's purport is very beautiful. Let us go through this. This verse is a quotation from Padma Puran. There are many regulative principles in the Shastras and directions given by the spiritual master. These regulative principles should act as servants, kinkara, of the basic principle. That is, one should always remember Krishna and never forget him. Now, my question to you all is, how can we always remember Krishna? Smartavya satatam Vishnu. How can we do this? Satatam is mentioned. Please remember also that. How can we always remember Krishna? Anyone? Archana Mataji, yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. By Nama Rupa Guna Leela, we will understand Krishna. And for example, his color is blue, or his hair are black. So wherever we see that color, we can correlate those things
regarding the form, but how to always remember Krishna? What is the best way where we can remember Krishna always?
By chanting.
Yes, it's very simple, by chanting. By chanting. Okay, then how can we never forget Krishna then? You only can answer. The vidhi is that we chant. Huh?
By not chanting.
Why not chanting? No, already the positive has been said, chanting to remember. See, the positive has been suggested that you should remember Krishna and you should not forget Krishna. What will make us forget Krishna? What rules we have to follow so that we don't forget Krishna?
4 regulative principles.
Yes.
We need to follow.
Yes, because by that 4 regulative principles, if you don't follow, then you'll forget Krishna. So that is vidhi. Vidhi is for us to chant the holy names. That's what the spiritual master gives. At the time of initiation, we take a vow to chant at least 16 rounds. Please remember the term at least 16 rounds. It's not 16 rounds. And to follow these 4 regular. These are the vows we take. So these vows help us to follow this principle. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, vismartavya na jatuchit. This is possible when one chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Yes. Okay, there is one question, Mataji.
Prabhuji, I have one query always. I mean, whenever we go to the temple, all devotees, while speaking also, they are holding the bead bag and they are chanting simultaneously. So, I mean, I know we have to complete our 16 rounds before 7:30 in the morning, early on the Brahma Muhurta. But throughout the day, even if I am speaking to somebody and at the back of my mind, I am chanting Harinam. So that will be considered as more than 16 rounds.
Yes, this as per Shastra at least, I can very clearly say that chanting is a very exclusive activity. And when you do your regular chanting, and later on in the day you have time to chant, even that time, if you're not able to do it as an exclusive activity, And if you're inattentive while chanting, then that will lead to offense. So
Okay.
it is best, what we call is chanting off the beats. Chanting off the beats means you can just vibrate the mantra or sing some bhajans. When you're doing chanting, you have to do an exclusive activity, and this is very, very important. That's why, if we take it as a casual activity, we are calling Krishna, and Krishna comes, and then we are busy with other things of this world, you know. So that's an offense. So that's why we have to be very careful about it.
So we shouldn't be doing that, right?
Yeah, we cannot do that simultaneously. We can chant and at the same time talk to devotees. No, chanting is an exclusive activity.
Yes, Prabhuji.
The,
Thank you.
the sutra is, when you chant, chant. That means you don't do any other thing. Okay. Therefore, one must strictly chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra 24 hours daily. Please, if you want, you can open the Chaitanya Charitamrita and see. Prabhupada is saying how much you should chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra 24 hours daily. And then Prabhupada, after making this statement, thunderbolt, then he says, one may have other duties to perform under the direction of the spiritual master, but he must first abide by the spiritual master's order to chant a certain number of rounds. So this is the highest standard you have to come to. But then there are other duties. So before you do other duties, first do the duty of the spiritual master's order to chant a certain number of rounds. And what is that certain number? In our Krishna conscious movement, we have recommended that a neophyte chant at least 16 rounds. So, who is a neophyte according to Prabhupada's definition? Raise your hands. Radha Bhavini Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, it is a person who chants at least 16 rounds.
So those who chant 16 rounds, they are all neophytes. Prabhupada. Very clear, you see. So advanced means he's chanting more rounds. And very advanced soul means he's chanting Nirantar. Nirantar Namlo. Madhyam Adhikari means Mahaprabhu says, Nirantara Namlo. He's continuously taking the Nam. He's continuously taking the Nam. So don't think that it is not practical. If we have a clear understanding of the philosophy and prepare ourselves, a time will come in our life that we'll be able to get free from all our obligations and exclusively devote. I'm here in Vrindavan, and there is a devotee, a very senior devotee, around 75 years old, brahmachari. He's a good doctor, homeopath doctor, and I see him practically right from early morning to 2:30. He's singing bhajans for 1 hour. Then he goes to a temple, attends a Mangalarti, chants, he comes back, and then again he's chanting, and other times he's preaching. Continuously all the time I see in the bathroom, he's singing the bhajans. Continuously Nam Smaran is happening for him. So neophyte means he is only chanting at least, Prabhupada is saying not 16 rounds, at least. That means at least more than 16 rounds we should chant, and still we'll be neophyte. This chanting of 16 rounds is absolutely necessary if one wants to remember Krishna and not forget him. Of all the regulative principles, the spiritual master's order to chant at least, again Prabhupada is saying, 16 rounds is most essential. This is the basic criteria, at least. One may sell books, enlist life members, or render some other service, but these duties are not ordinary duties. These duties serve as an impetus for remembering Krishna. So these are direct devotional activities. doing big distribution, collecting donations, or doing any other temple related services. They are impetus for remembering Krishna. When one goes with a Sankirtan party or sells book, he naturally remembers that he is going to sell Krishna's books. In this way, he is remembering Krishna. When one goes to enlist a life member, he talks about Krishna and thereby remembers him. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, vismartavyo najatu chit. The conclusion is that one must act in such a way that he will always remember Krishna, and one must refrain from doing things that will make him forget Krishna. So this is the standard we have to come to. That is also for Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Please remember that. These two principles form the basic background of Krishna consciousness. Any questions on this? What we have discussed now? Any questions, any clarifications? I thought there will be many questions. A very controversial topic, I thought. Parsarthi Prabhuji, yes.
Prabhuji, here I was reading the Nectar of Devotion, and it was written there that Srila Prabhupada is speaking that people may ask that why if the movement is against advancement of material civilization, then why is the movement depending on scientific innovations for furthering the cause of preaching and other spiritual activities? Then Srila Prabhupada says that no, we are not against what they are doing. It is only that we should be Krishna conscious. I have to search out where it was so that I can read out from the Nectar of Devotion.
Basically, you refer and then send your question, then we will look into it, because I want to see the right quotation. What exactly is the quotation? Then we can speak.
Actually, the question is not that. The question is that also in Bhagavad Gita.
Let us. No, I would suggest you send me the exact quotation, and
Okay.
then you frame your question, and then we'll look into it. Okay. Any other questions regarding this purport? Smartavya satatam Vishnu, vismartavya najatu chit. Okay. So now, after defining Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, now Mahaprabhu goes into the limbs of devotion. There are limbs of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Vividanga Sadhana Bhaktira Bahuta Vistar Sankshepa Kayache Kichu Sadhananga Sar. I shall say something about the various practices of devotional service. Vividanga Sadhana Bhakti Bahuta Vistar, which is expanded so many ways. I wish to speak briefly of the essential practices. So briefly he is going to speak. So now onwards, I am just going to read, because Mahaprabhu is going to discuss the 64 limbs of devotion. So I'll read one after another. And if you have any questions, we can take up definitely. Guru Padashray Diksha Gurur Sevana Sadharma Shiksha Prishcha Sadhu Marganugamana Krishna Prete Bhogatyag Krishna Tirte Vas Yavan Nirvah Parigraha Ekadashya Upavas. So the first anga is what? On the path of regulated devotional service, Vaidhi Bhakti, one must observe the following attributes. One must accept a bona fide spiritual master, Guru Padashray, complete surrender. One must accept initiation from him, Diksha. One must serve him, Guru Sevana. One must receive instruction from the spiritual master and make inquiries in order to learn devotional service. Sadharma Shiksha Pricha. One must follow in the footsteps of Priya Sacharas and follow the directions given by the spiritual master. Sadhu Marganu Gamana. One should be prepared to give up everything for the Krishna satisfaction and should always accept everything for Krishna satisfaction. Krishna Pritya Bhoga Tyag. One must live in a place where Krishna is present, a city like Vrindavan or Mathura, or a Krishna temple, or a home which is also having temple. Krishna Tirthe Vas. One should acquire a livelihood that is just sufficient to keep the body and soul together. Yavan Nirvaha Parigraha Pratigraha. One must fast on Ekadasi. Ekadasya Upvas. So these make 9. Dhatrashvadgo Vipra Vaishnava Pujana Seva Nama Pradadi Dure Visarjana. One should worship Dhatri trees, banyan trees, cows, brahmanas, and the devotee of Lord Vishnu. Dhatri is the Amalaki tree also. Now, the first 10 are the do's, and then 11th onwards is don'ts. That's why I say one should avoid offenses against devotional service and the holy name. Seva aprad, nama pradadi. Dure visarjana. Now, Prabhupada gives a purport. There are 10 items in the beginning of devotional service up to the point of worshipping Dhatri trees, banyan trees, cows, brahmanas, and devotees of Lord Vishnu. The 11th item is to avoid offenses when rendering devotional service and chanting the holy names. So if you are not attentive while chanting, then it is namaprad. Vaishnava Sangatyag Bahu Shishna Kariba Bahu Granth Kalabhyas Vyakhyana Varjiba. The 12th item is to give up the company of non-devotees. A Vaishnava Sangatyag. One should not accept an unlimited number of disciples. Bahu Shishna Kariba. One should not partially study many scriptures. Bahu Granth Kalabhyas Vakhyan Varjibe. So why one studies many scriptures? Just to able to give references and expand explanations. Now Prabhupada gives a purport. Accepting an unlimited number of devotees or disciples is very risky for one who is not a preacher. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, a preacher has to accept many disciples to expand the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is risky because when a spiritual master accepts a disciple, he naturally accepts the disciples' sinful activities and their reactions. Unless he is very powerful. Please mark the statement, very powerful. He cannot assimilate all the sinful reactions of his disciples and has to suffer the consequences. Therefore, one is generally forbidden to accept many disciples. It is also the duty of the disciple to become qualified to become a disciple and then approach the spiritual master. And once you take up to the spiritual practice of chanting, one should be very committed, because if one is slack in his practice, ultimately it will affect the spiritual master. So how serious is this commitment? You should think about it. One should not partially study a book just to pose oneself as a great scholar by being able to refer to scriptures. So not just for this. One should study book completely. In our Krishna conscious movement, we have therefore limited our study of the Vedic literatures to the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So we can see in the Bhakti Shastri there is Bhagavad Gita and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Deshamrita and Ishopanishads. In one sense, Bhagavad Gita and Ishopanishads can be clubbed together, Updeshamrita and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study and PhD study is Chaitanya Charitamrita. So if we study the Bhakti Shastri books and the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, CC and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that itself is sufficient. These 4 works are sufficient for preaching purpose. They are adequate for the understanding of the philosophy and spreading of the missionary activities all over the world. So just by these 4 books, you can spread the philosophy all over the world. If one studies a particular book, he must do so thoroughly. See, Prabhupada, if you have the ability to study many books, you study. But take one book and thoroughly study it. This is very important. That is the principle. By thoroughly studying a limited number of books, one can understand the philosophy. Hani labh sama, shokadir vashana hoibe, anya deva, anya shastra, nindana kariba. These are again don'ts. A devotee should treat loss and gain equally. Hani labh sama. The devotee should not be overwhelmed by lamentation. Shokadir vashna hoibe. The devotee should not worship demigods, not he disrespect them. Anya devata, anya shastra, nindana kariba. Similarly, a devotee should not study or criticize other scriptures. Anya devta ninda na karibe, anya shastra ninda na karibe. Both are there. Vishnu Vaishnava ninda, gramya varta na shuniva, prani matre manovakya, udvegna diva. The devotee should not hear Lord Vishnu or his devotees blaspheme. Vaishnava ninda. You should not hear. The devotee should avoid reading or hearing newspapers or mundane books that contain story of love affairs between men and women or subjects palatable to the senses. Gramya Vartana Shunubas. This is very important in today's world of internet where news is easily accessible. And what does news contain? It's all nonsense stories. Neither by mind, mana, or words, vakya, should the devotee cause anxiety, udveg, to any living entity, regardless of how insignificant he may be. Prani matra, udvegna, even to an ant, one should not cause anxiety. Now, Prabhupada gives a purport. The first 10 items are do's, and the second 10 items are don'ts, as I mentioned that. Thus, the first 10 items give direct action, and the second 10 items give indirect action. Pravritti and nivritti it is called in Sanskrit. These actions we do because they help us to advance in Krishna consciousness. And these actions we don't do, by not doing them, also we make advancement. We avoid degrading our consciousness. So like that. They are also actions, but they are indirect actions. Okay. Let's go next. Angas. Now we have finished here till here 20. Remember this first 20. Among them, first 10 are do's, and the next 10 are don'ts. Now, among these 20 do's and don'ts, which are the most important 3? Anyone knows? Raise your hands. Anyone knows? Raise your hands. Paths are people. Yes.
The first three, Prabhuji. Accepting a
First three,
spiritual
yes.
master.
You have studied Bhakti Rasamrita. Okay, the first 3 are most important. That is Guru Padashray, Diksha, and Guru Sevan. They are most important purposes. Okay, now after this 20, the next list starts. Again, the numbering starts from 1. Shravana Kirtan Smaran Pujan Vandana Paricharya Dasya Sakyatma Nivedana Agre Nritya Gita Vikyapti Dandavannati Abhyuthana Anuvrajya Gita Grihe Gati. Shravan, hearing. Kirtan, remembering, chanting, Smaran, remembering. Pujan, worshipping. Vandan, praying. Paricharya, serving. Dasya, accepting servitorship. Sakya and Atman. These are the Navida Bhakti also. Agre, Nritya, dance before the deity. Gita, sing before the deity. Open one's mind to the deity. This is also very important. Dandavannati, offering obeisance to the deity. Abhyuthana, stand up before the deity and the spiritual master just to show them respect. So when the deity is on the palanquin, they come, we should immediately stand, offer obeisances. We should not sit there. Follow the deity or the spiritual master. Anuvrajya, visit different places of pilgrim or go see the deity in the temple. So when you leave your house by car or walk, whatever it is, to go to the temple, that act is also what? Devotion. Pada Sevanam it is. Pada Sevanam means walking. So it's Pada Sevanam. So now, excluding the 20, here we have now taken up till 16. Now, please remember Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, for every of these angas of Bhakti, Rupa Goswami gives scriptural quotations, and we should study that very exhaustively. Parikrama stava paat, japa kirtan sankirtana, dhupamalya gandha, mahaprasada bhojana. One should circumambulate the temple, parikrama. We should do parikrama. There is parikrama of the temple, there is parikrama of the dham. Dham parikrama is there, Jagannath Puri, Navdeep Mandal parikrama, the Vrindavan Dham parikrama. Recite various prayers, stava part, chant softly. I like this. Japa, as you know, Prabhupada is chanting, we are saying softly also. And Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also very clearly in the verse itself, he says chanting means one has to chant softly. So many times in the beginning stages, because the mind has so many things going on in this, and we have to chant loudly to hear. Sometimes you're just sitting and suddenly someone shouts, our attention goes there. So to draw the attention, one has to chant loudly. But actually real chanting is to be done very softly. So one who initially many years it takes for us to come to that stage of chanting softly. So one should chant, if he's chanting loudly, he has to sit in a little separate place so that, because one has to hear one's own mantra vibrated and attentively hear that, not hear other sound vibrations, even while chanting. Then Sankirtan is congregational chanting, chant congregationally. Smell the incense, the flower garlands offered to the deity. Dhupa malya gandha mahaprasad bhojana. Eat the remnants of food offered to the deity. Arartika Mahotsav Shri Murti Darshan Nija Priya Dhan Dhyan Tadiya Sevana. One should attend Aarti and festivals. Mahotsav, Aarti and Mahotsav. See the deity, Shri Murti Darshan. Present what is very dear to oneself to the deity. Nija Priya Dhana. Dhan, sorry, not Dhan, Dhan. Dhyan, meditate on the deity. Tadiya Seva, serve those related to the Lord, like Tulsi and the cows. Tadiya Tulsi, Vaishnava, Mathura, Bhagavata, Echarya Seva Hai, Krishnera Abhimata. Tadiya means the Tulsi leaves, the devotees of Krishna, the birthplace of Krishna, and the Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna is very eager to see his devotees serve Tulsi, Vaishnava, Mathura, and Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada. After item 26 meditation, the 27th is to serve Tulsi, the 28th is to serve the Vaishnavas, the 29th is to live in Mathura, the birthplace of Lord Krishna, and the 30th is to read Srimad Bhagavatam regularly. Any questions up till now? I'm just going through the list. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Opening one's mind to Lord means what?
Opening one's mind to Lord. You're going through some trouble
Okay.
and practice of your spiritual life, and some things are troubling you. The anarthas are troubling you. You have some previous conditioning habits which keep on troubling you. So you should be very frank and open and express it to the deities. Especially expressing towards the deities is very important, and to those who you think are your spiritual mentors, who can maintain confidentiality. That's very important. Especially the spiritual master, and especially the spiritual mentors. In the traditional Varnashram system, it was the Vanaprasthas who were very matured and experienced. The sannyasis used to always wander and preach. But it is always better to have spiritual mentors who are known to you and they are like-minded and they can maintain confidentiality. And to the deities also you can do that. And the deities will hear your prayers and they will reciprocate. You can see that. I hope it is clear.
Yes, Guruji. Thank you.
Any other questions anyone has? Okay, I'll just go through the limbs one by one now. Verse by verse. We have finished Krishnarte Akila Cheshta Tat Kripavalokana Janma Dinadi Mahotsav Lan Bhaktagan. One should perform all endeavors for Krishna. Krishnartha Akhila Cheshta. No cheshta to be done for one's sense gratification. Only for Krishnartha. Krishna Prityartha. One should look forward for his mercy. Tat Kripa Avalokan. Lord, when will you show mercy upon me? One should partake of various ceremonies with devotees, ceremonies like Lord Krishna's birthday or Lord Ramchandra, Janmadi Dhamma Mahotsav, Bhaktagan. Sarvata Sharanapatti. One should surrender to Krishna in all respects. Kartikadi Vrata. One should observe particular verbs like Kartik Vrata. Chatushashti Ange Ye Pratama Mahtattva. These are some of the 64 important items of devotee service. Okay. I will stop here now because it's time up and we will take up how it comes to 64. We will see that in the next class. Okay, we will stop here. Any questions, any clarifications until now? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Kaviraj Das Goswami ki jai. Hare Krishna.